I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
We are just a few weeks past the 80th anniversary of the Three Caballeros, the second of Disney's animated movies about Latin America. And we decided, it's the 80th anniversary. It's time to talk about this film, a film that both of us grew up on. I watched this stuff on the Disney Channel back in the day. And I'm just going to assume it just aired on regular TV for you.
It was less on regular TV for me. Most of the film did not look familiar for me, but what I remember was seeing clips. So it was the You Belong to My Heart was really familiar, and also just the Three Caballeros theme song. Those were the two parts I really remembered, and the rest of it was kind of fuzzy. Either like I hadn't seen it before, or, I may have seen this once, but it's not super drilled into my brain.
And I've mentioned this on the podcast before. A lot of these wartime era, compilation era, whatever you want to call them, films had a tendency to get chopped up and just shown as shorts on television. So it's possible you could have seen one of these as a short on TV at some point.
Yeah, that's how I remember Three Caballeros, is not as a movie. It's as, I saw this one segment as a short a lot on TV.
The You Belong to My Heart song, while it did sort of originate, the English version at least originated in this movie, I mostly remember this song from a Pluto cartoon where he sang it. I don't know if that's what you remember it from.
No, because I remember the Dora Luz version. Mm-hmm. Because I remember her look and her, the Donald Duck going nuts over her, and
So yeah, I've already mentioned it. Wartime. This is 1944. This is right smack dab in the beginning. I guess you could say the beginning of the U.S. involvement in World War II.
Well, I mean, we're coming to the end of the war, but this is really the U.S. is very in it at this point. For those that aren't really up on their World War II history, most of the world had already been in it for a while, and the U.S. was just like, yeah, not our circus, not our monkeys. And this was at the point where the U.S. was finally like, okay, our circus, our monkeys, somebody came over and messed with Pearl Harbor, and now we're gonna be in it. So Hollywood got very patriotic and started making lots of propaganda films. Propaganda here used in its most neutral sense. But Disney was one of those companies that they threw their all into backing the war effort. And why don't you talk about how these movies worked into the war effort in the Latin American sense?
So Disney and the U.S. government kind of figured out that Disney movies and Disney cartoons were really popular in Latin America, specifically the character of Donald Duck. If you ever go into certain stores, especially Spanish stores, you'll probably see a bottle of Donald Duck orange juice. I know I do. That's why. Donald Duck, very popular in Latin America.
I will say that even though unlike you, I'm not of a Hispanic background. But I live in an area that is filled with Hispanic and Latino people. We've got a very large Latino Hispanic community where I live. And Donald Duck orange juice is massively popular down here. You can find it in almost every store. And I grew up drinking Donald Duck orange juice.
Yeah.
And I never understood the connection until I got older, and that it was really popular in stores down here because of that community.
Yeah, so the U.S. government was going to send Walt and his most loyal animators. I'll get to that why in a minute. His most loyal animators on a sort of goodwill trip to Latin America to meet the Latin people, to learn about their culture and, maybe make a movie or two kind of celebrating the Latin culture so we can get the Latin people into the good graces and join our side of the war, and also convince the general American public that, hey, the Latin people aren't so bad. Don't you just want them on our side to fight for our side? And Walt was very, very eager to do that because his animators were going on strike.
Oh, yeah.
Hence why his most loyal animators went with him.
Loyal as in the ones who hadn't joined the union.
Yeah. So it was a double benefit for Walt. One, he gets to spread more of his properties in Latin America, and two, he gets away from the union meetings. One day, I want to really do a deep dive on the war propaganda, the really, really, really deep war propaganda that Disney did at that point. Some of it involving Donald Duck, but today is not that day.
If you're really up on your Disney wartime propaganda, especially the ones with Donald Duck, you probably already know which one we're just dying to do. But we might get to it later.
Super duper Superman.
Yeah.
Though the first film that they went and did was Saludos Amigos. And Saludos Amigos, less a movie and more, here's some live action footage we filmed on like a home video camera, and here's a cartoon that we came up by visiting the Latin people and learning of the Latin culture.
It's kind of a travel log.
Yeah, the movie's not that long. It's barely 45 minutes. So much. Go ahead.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
But for our purposes, it does introduce one awesome character.
Yeah, one awesome character, a character that has become a core character of the Donald Duck family, a core character and member of the Three Caballeros, Jose Carioca. Yes, Jose Carioca. That is the proper pronunciation of his name. Now, I understand why most people would prefer to call him Jose because, hey, he's Latin, and the only time that name is really said clearly in this movie is by Panchito. But Donald says Joe, specifically Joe Carioca. But then no one understands what Donald's saying, so it's easy to ignore it.
But Jose is the Portuguese pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
And he is Brazilian, and he does speak Portuguese. Panchito is Mexican. He speaks Spanish, and he would say Jose. Mm-hmm. And Donald, being American and theoretically speaking English, he calls him Joe for short, because he pronounces himself as Jose. Interestingly, Jose shortens his own name to Zay. So he's also known as Zay Carioca.
Funny thing, Jose Carioca, based off the very voice actor he has in this movie, Jose Oliveira, who was a prominent Brazilian musician and actor who professionally also went under the name Zay Carioca.
Yeah.
So the character was specifically based around this actor. And Saludos Amigos introduces the character. Him and Donald have a little bit of it can't really have it. I mean, it's an 8-minute short. They have their little fun in Brazil, and yeah, not much to say about it, honestly. And we talked about some of these wartime shorts. Half the animation team was drafted to war, and the other half, like I said, was fighting for union rights. So they didn't really have a full staff to do a full movie. So they did these shorts and try to stitch them together and to make something symbolizing a movie. Most of them have, we talked about a few of them before. Some of these have a connecting tissue to these shorts. Some of it is, there are books in a library, or it's Donald Duck's birthday. It's or it could be something as ridiculous as Jiminy Cricket goes to a little girl's birthday party.
Yeah.
So at least they made attempts to connect the shorts into something. But yeah, that was Disney's a part of Disney's addition into the war effort, was trying to get Latin America on the side of the Allied powers against the Axis powers. It worked.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how much Disney contributed, of course, but overall, it was a successful effort. Overall, this was part of an outgrowth of a larger thing that we had done called the Good Neighbor policy with most of Latin America, Hispanic America, because we have had a pretty bad history of meddling in the affairs, let's say. And so at one point, I think it was Roosevelt, good old FDR, if I remember correctly, decided, like, maybe let's stop doing that for a while. And decided maybe we should stop meddling in the affairs of our Latin American neighbors, and implemented this policy. And so when World War II came around and the Axis powers were trying to find more allies in the Americas, of course, Canada joined the war before the U.S. did. Go Canada. And the Axis powers were like, well, let's find allies over there. And basically the places that they had left were the Latin American countries. And so they were trying to make roads in there, and the good neighbor policy went from like a non-intervention strategy to like, oh, let's not just not intervene, let's actively form allies. And so that's how we went to like, hey, Walt, why don't you go down there and take Donald Duck with you and make a whole bunch of cartoons? So if anybody wants to know kind of at least the short version of how that all went about. That's kind of the shortest version possible of how that all went about.
Disney did make a documentary about this called Walt and El Grupo. It's on Disney Plus if you want to know the long version of the story.
Yeah, and it's an interesting enough documentary if you're into history and Disney mixed together as far as, world history. But yeah, it's some of these things are fascinating just in the sense of, like, how did we get here?
So, I mean, yeah, Donald Duck. So this is the 40s. This is Donald Duck. We have the OG voice of Donald Duck, Clarence Nash. I've mentioned Jose Oliveira. Joaquin Garay as Panchito Pistoles, the Mexican rooster. Name's kind of problematic these days. Disney did change his name in the 2000s, starting with his appearance in House of Mouse.
Yeah,
And
I wanted to talk about his name change. Because if you look up this character, you will find one of a couple of names. Because they have changed this character's name more than maybe any Disney character ever created. Firstly, because his name is not correct. Pistoles is not a Spanish name. If they're trying to say his name is, Panchito Guns, which is, or pistols.
I mean, he carries two pistols, so that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but the proper Spanish word is pistolas with an A, and they spell it pistoles with an E. So it's not even translated properly. However, his full name at the moment is Panchito Romero Miguel Junipero Francisco Quintero Gonzalez III. However, in The Legend of the Three Caballeros, which is the latest one, they have dropped Junipero from his name. Panchito is a nickname for people with the name Francisco. It's like not a shortening, but it's a nickname for Francisco, which is also part of his name.
Maybe he had three grandfathers named Francisco and they wanted to honor all of them. I don't know.
Yeah, he does.
Pancho, Francisco, Panchito meaning little Pancho, little kid. So his name is literally Little Francisco.
Yeah. Since there is no pistolas in his name, some people suggest that maybe that's just another nickname. Little Pancho who carries the guns,
Yeah.
And in the Spanish-speaking market, he is actually known as Panchito Pistolas. Because they say it correctly, because it's their freaking language. But yeah, mostly Disney has dropped both the Panchito Pistolas, and also the pistolas entirely, meaning he doesn't really carry guns anymore. In fact, in The Legend of the Three Caballeros, he is not carrying guns.
In the Grand Fiesta Tour ride at Epcot, when you do see Panchito, his guns have been painted to be a non-realistic color, orange, with little flags sticking out saying bang, to get the kids to know that they're not real guns, they're toys. They don't even look like real guns. as opposed to the movie where they are very much realistic guns and they do shoot.
And in fact, Donald is very scared of them because in Three Caballeros, they are pointed at Donald's head and he is very scared of them. But in a context of today where, you know, in America at least, I understand this is not the same in all nations, and thankfully so. But in America, where everything is topsy-turvy, you know, we make kindergartners go through, you know, school shooting drills. So I know there are a lot of people who are like, we're too sensitive and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but if you've got kids, do you realize that like your 6-year-old is going through active shooter drills on a weekly basis? Like, I totally understand if a 6-year-old has PTSD from seeing a gun in a cartoon. You know?
Hmm.
So I'm not going to get mad at Disney for it, honestly.
I don't think they gave him his guns even in his appearance on the new DuckTales.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I don't think they did. Yeah, so I will give Disney credit at the time because this was not at all the thing in that these two characters, you know, I mean, Donald Duck is portrayed by Clarence Nash, who was a white American, and Jose was portrayed by a Brazilian man, and he is a Brazilian parrot. And Panchito was portrayed by a Mexican man, and he is a Mexican rooster. Bravo to Disney for that, because I mean, I know this was propaganda and they were trying to reach out, and these were very famous actors in their home country, but that's kind of unusual for Disney in the 40s to actually get people from these countries of these ethnicities and who speak the actual languages and stuff they're portraying to do these characters. So bravo.
Yeah, usually they would take, one of their actors, usually a white guy, and have him do a really bad Spanish accent, which we do have in this movie.
I mean, yeah, we do have it, but at least the main characters are famous people from their own countries, at least attempting to portray their own cultures.
Yeah.
Not always correctly, but yeah.
We get some of the other Disney standards. Sterling Holloway, he's in everything at this point in Disney. Like, I don't think there's a Disney movie that of this era that Sterling Holloway wasn't in.
But he is just a narrator over a story. Mm. And it's just his voice. I mean, it's very obviously Sterling Holloway is reading you a bedtime story. It's not him trying to fake anything or,
And our other two narrators, Frank Graham, who was the main narrator of the first segment, and Fred Shields, who was the narrator of the Flying Donkey short. White guys doing Spanish accents.
Yeah, that is like the one where it does get a little cringy.
Yeah, cringy enough, among other things, that this one gets a content warning.
I believe this is a new content warning, isn't it?
I don't know. It doesn't look new to me, but could be.
I did just read where Disney was changing their content warning again, but I'm not sure if this is the new content warning or not. So the one that, as of time of recording, appears in front of it is the one that says, this program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. Disney is committed to creating stories with inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience around the globe. So I'm not sure if that's the new one they just announced for 2025 or not, but it is the one that was on Disney Plus at time of recording this episode.
And there are some moments that are very obvious, and there are some cringy moments. Obviously, it's Panchito's guns. Also, Jose smokes.
Yeah, Jose smokes a giant cigar constantly.
Some of the cringy moments include, like I said, white guys doing really bad Spanish accents, and a couple of Donald's personality of being a womanizer is on in full force in this movie.
And honestly, I'm not saying that it never showed up in Donald's personality anywhere else, but what is it with Donald's woman chasing in this movie? That is the only personality trait Donald has in this movie. And it is weird. And it is Pepe Le Pew levels of weird.
And it's specifically, exclusively human women. Like, he's not going after animated bird females. He's going after adult, presumably, Latina women.
Yeah, it's all adult women, and they're all, Dora Luz, who's a very famous Mexican singer who's in this, and it's Aurora Miranda, who's Carmen Miranda's sister, very famous Brazilian singer, and Carmen Molina is in here, who she was a Mexican dancer, is in one of these things, and Donald makes eyes at her, So, I mean, they were all adult women appearing in this movie, and there's a scene on the beach, where they take a flying serape over a Mexican beach towards the end of the movie and it's all adult women, but Donald's just like trying to grab at women on the beach and stuff, so it's not problematic in that sense, but it's problematic in the fact of like, chill out, Donald. What are you doing?
I'd say keep it in your pants, but Donald doesn't wear any.
I mean, Donald Duck is Donald Ducking it, but still, It is just weird because, like I said, it's not that it was never part of Donald's character, but it is the only part of Donald's character in this movie, and I am not sure why.
I don't know. Maybe that's what that was the feedback they got from their trip to Latin America. I don't know.
I mean, to me, I just wonder if, because there are some people who wonder why this movie gets a title card about stereotypes and stuff, and I do wonder if this is part of it, because there is the like hot Latina stereotype, I mean, there is that fetishization of the hot Latina woman that may be coming into play here, and I do wonder if that is part of the reason we get that title card, because Donald the second he sees a Latina woman, just absolutely loses his little feathery mind. And I do wonder if that is maybe one of the things that they're saying. Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's just slightly too out of character for Donald in this. But like even in the Brazilian section, Jose is like pulling him off of Aurora Miranda, being like, "Okay, Donald, okay," like he's tying him to a chair and being like, "Okay, wings off the woman, okay." Like, uh, before we dig too much into the Three Caballeros together more, there are two segments that have nothing to do with the Three Caballeros before either Jose or Panchito show up. Because our framing device is Donald gets a box filled with presents.
It's Donald's birthday, and this movie did come out on Donald's 10th birthday, his 10th anniversary as a character. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's Donald's a very popular character in Latin America. He's been around 10 years. Let's do this as Donald's birthday, and he's getting gifts from all of his friends in Latin America, or cousins, as the narrator says. So your mileage may vary on that.
Well, they're all birds. Latin America is full of birds,
Mm-hmm.
So the weirdest thing is that he opens up the first present, which when wrapped looks like a toaster. And then he unwraps it and it pops into a film projector and he's like, "Oh boy, home movies." Which, I'm sorry, there is nobody on this planet I love enough that I want them to send me their home movies as a present. I don't know about you, but like I don't want it.
I mean,
please do not send me your home movies.
I see people's home movies on TikTok every day.
I mean, I'll watch like 30 seconds of your home movies as a TikTok. Okay, your dog did something cute for 30 seconds. Okay, that home movie I'll watch. But like, if you're sending me your vacation videos and you're like, "Here's a press," like, no, nobody wants that. But anyway, the first two segments of this have nothing to do with the Three Caballeros. I'm not sure why they're in there. The first one is a penguin in South America. I do not know who in South America we were trying to sway to the side of the Allies. I guess it was the penguins.
The Cold-Blooded Penguin, about a little penguin who is tired of living in Antarctica and wants to live where it's warm. This I did see as a short on TV before I ever saw the movie.
Yeah, I had never seen this one before, but all I will say about this was I do feel for this little penguin Pablo. He all he wants to do is be somewhere warm. He is sick of living in the cold, and he wants to be able to be on a nice equatorial beach where it is always warm. And that sounds very nice to me. I do not like the cold. If it gets below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, no thank you. Please do not contact me. I will be a blanket burrito at that point. Thank you. But yeah, that's it. It's just this little penguin trying to figure out how to get from the Arctic to Like, I don't want to be on this iceberg. Please get me to a beach at the equator, and his various trials attempting to sail from, the South Pole to Equatorial Beach.
It's a cute
It's
little
cute.
song.
It's cute, but there's not much to it that you can really talk about. It's mostly visual gags.
Hmm.
And the second one is about a flying donkey, and it's kind of stupid.
The Flying Gauchito.
Yeah, it's a gaucho telling a story about when he was a tiny little gauchito, and he went out to try to hunt a condor because reasons. And instead of finding a condor, he found a donkey who could fly because reasons. And he decided to take his flying donkey and enter him into a donkey racing contest and cheat. And technically he won, but everybody sees at the end that the donkey has wings and they all get mad at him. And then the donkey flies away before they can grab their winnings, carrying the little gauchito away, and neither of them were ever seen again. The end.
It's cute. Again, this is another one of that I saw as a short before I saw the movie.
I mean, it's cute, but it is completely unsatisfying.
I don't know. What does this have to do with birds other than the donkey has wings?
Yeah.
Although there's that little in-between part where we see various Latin American birds, including the Aracuan bird. Oh, he'll come back in another movie if we ever get around to it.
Yeah.
That little Aracuan song, that'll stick in your head.
Yeah, that's a cute little song.
I have seen like hour-long loops of that little song. Because it's a perfect loop if you can, because it's like the same few frames looped over and over, so you can loop that and loop the song, and you'll get a perfect loop out of that. But let's kind of get into where the Caballeros actually start getting together.
Because the next present is a pop-up book. So we're in proper Disney territory now. And Donald opens the pop-up book, and there's Joe! Good old Joe!
Yep, it's a book about Brazil, and he's, he wants to take Donald to Brazil. Kiki, have you ever been to Bahia?
Only in my animated dreams.
Same here. The song that he sings, Have You Been to Bahia, it's not going to be on any greatest hits Disney compilation. Jose shrinks Donald to his little size so they can go into the Brazil book and go to Bahia. And this is where the Aracuan bird starts causing havoc because they're in a book. And he starts using a pencil to mess with the train tracks since they're taking a train to Bahia. That little short is it's funny.
Yeah. But most of this is Aurora Miranda singing one of the most famous songs in Brazil. Which, if you don't understand it, here's kind of the rundown of it. It is about a woman named Yaya, and she sells these Brazilian cookies named quindins, and they are really yummy, but also, it's a kind of suggestive song.
Trying to get a woman's cookies, huh?
Yeah, yeah, no. But it's a bunch of men trying to figure out how to get her cookies, you know. Uh
I will say that okay, we're not quite at Mary Poppins in terms of integrating live action actors and animation yet, but
yeah,
it's not
there,
bad.
I mean it's cute and it's very early in this technology, but there is no way you're really going to believe that they're all together. It's very much she is dancing in front of a green screen and there are cartoons behind her on the green screen.
You can tell because while the live action footage of Miss Miranda here is very, very clear, even for a 40s film, the animation quality dips when she's in front of that green screen.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like her winking and then it cutting to a completely different thing and the animated characters winking back. Like that kind of thing. They're not even on the same frame together.
Mhm.
Um, so when they're on the same frame, it's very much she's in front of a green screen and there's animation behind her, and then it's like we'll edit from a completely live action shot to a completely animated shot in reaction to a thing she just did.
I will say that
Um,
once more of the live action actors, the men, start entering the shot, we go to a set which is drawn to look like an animated picture. So that is one way to get around it. If the set looks like a cartoon, it's easier to mix the cartoon characters in with the live actors. But again, it's very obvious that they are not in the shot, and nor were they directed to interact with the cartoon characters. It's just do your thing, and we will draw the characters around your actions.
there is, however, one really good quality piece of animation, which is a trio dance that Aurora Miranda does with two men who start fighting over her, and it goes into a shadow dance where she leaves and the two men continue fighting over who's going to get her, and it transitions into an animation where the men become roosters and it becomes a rooster fight, and then it transitions back out of the animation of them as roosters back into them dance fighting.
That is
And
cool. That
that is
amazing.
very smooth. That is possibly the best animation in the entire film.
That is the best transition from live action into animation in this whole movie.
And I was really impressed by it because not only does it transition from one to the other, but it goes back. It goes from live action to animation and back into live action, and all of the transitions are smooth.
And that's probably why they're in shadow to make the animation transition easier.
Oh,
Because
absolutely, but it's still good.
all you would have to do is have like the one frame of them in shadow, draw that one frame, and then just draw the morph into the roosters and then back again. And Aurora Miranda is very entertained by these two men fighting for her affection. She is just standing there. She is dancing to the music. She is smiling. She is enjoying the show.
Yeah, and
Until the
she's also enjoying that Donald is like way into her.
like there are these two dudes fighting over her, and her reaction is, Donald, Jose, let's get out of here and do our own thing. Meanwhile, those two are still fighting over her, and she's gone with two other guys.
Yeah. And I think I like it best because she wanders off with Donald and Jose, and she is such an awesome, desirable woman that she's able to make the street lamps dance and the tables and chairs dance, and eventually the buildings are dancing and stuff. Like, she's able to make the entirety of Brazil become this animated dancing playground, just by default of like how awesome and beautiful and, desirable she is.
Even the moon is dancing in her presence.
Yeah. And that's how we end that segment, and they jump out of the storybook with like all of Brazil dancing to Aurora Miranda, But I do like the little transition scene out of the book where Donald realizes, and this is probably another reason we have the title card, they are unfortunately too small, and he uses an outdated term for that. But they are, because they shrunk down to go into the storybook, Donald and Jose are now too small to open the present. And Jose teaches him, quote unquote, black magic to bring them back to their normal size again.
Yeah.
That was a bit odd.
But the animation on that magic trick is really good. You see, Jose doing the little tricks, and he's taking his jacket off and flipping it around and flipping his hat around. And then Donald doing the same thing, but he's Donald, Nothing up this sleeve, nothing up that sleeve, and like a bunch of playing card comes out. Donald cheats at cards.
Yeah. And also where Jose is able to like inflate his feet and then his legs, and then and then he gets larger and stuff until he's his normal size. Donald tries to do the same thing, but he like disconnects his feet from the rest of his body, and then like all of his body parts start falling apart, and then he ends up like rolling his own head around, and like
that is great animation. They even give him...
It's beautiful animation. It's also really hilarious because you're like, oh, Donald, of course you would mess this up,
Yep.
It looks so smooth when Jose does it. Like, he's very slick, and you're like, ah, yeah, that's a skilled magician. And then Donald does it, and you're like, oh, you little screw up,
Because Jose is cool, Donald is not.
Yeah.
But eventually they figure it out, and they open the final present, the third present, and we finally get our third Caballero. We get Panchito, and in full musical glory, and we get the Three Caballeros song.
And I gotta say, it's still a banger after all these years.
Yeah. Even the song, while the song is, again, song's still a banger, song is awesome, and, it's a great song about friendship. We are three friends, we stick together no matter what, throughout the rain and stormy weather. And then comes the cringe factor. Though pals that we may be, when some Latin baby says yes, no, or maybe, each man for himself.
Yeah, something bro code, whatever.
I can tell, again, growing up with the Disney Channel, that segment, that entire Three Caballeros song segment got replayed a lot. Watching it on the Disney Channel, just that, just that whole piece of animation is, awesome. And of course, because it's Donald's birthday, Panchito gives him a piñata. But Donald doesn't know what a piñata is.
It's a way to take out your barely repressed anger, Donald. You're gonna love it.
Donald, anger issues? Never! We have just passed the anniversary of this movie, which this movie came out in February of 1945. Yet we get an entire segment dedicated to Christmas.
Well, I mean, They were trying to show the use of the piñata.
That I get. You know, it's in my research for this movie. Apparently, this movie did premiere in Mexico in December. So I guess because of that scene, they wanted that during the holiday seasons in Mexico.
It's a really good thing, and honestly, as far as a let's explain Christmas tradition in Mexico around why you'd have a piñata, uh, in like 3 minutes
Mm.
to an American audience who might not understand this. It's not a bad way to do it.
Mm.
I mean, it's not a deep dive. It doesn't get every point, perfect, but it hits all the major points, and it it does kind of give an overview for people unfamiliar with the culture.
Mhm.
So, fairly good job, Disney. You
You
know?
know, for the 1940s, they didn't, that it was not perfect, but again, enough for an American audience of the 1940s who kind of get the gist of what's going on.
And like I
E-
said, it's like 3 minutes.
mm,
You can't do a deep dive in 3 minutes, but they do a pretty good job of showing, like, you know, Las Posadas and the children going around to the doors, like Mary and Joseph, and like, you know, we don't have any room, we don't have any room. Oh, we finally have some room, come on in. Um, let's have food, let's break open the piñata. Oh, there's treats inside the piñata, and then Panchito's like, okay, now Donald gets to try to break open his piñata, and then he's like, here's a stick, here's a blindfold, let's turn you around, and you know,
and them screwing with Donald with pulling up and swinging around the piñata. The piñata's attacking Donald at one point.
yeah, it's a fun little scene of Donald learning what a piñata is,
Yeah.
and then they decide to go over sideways and under on a magic serape ride.
I kind of like the explanation of Mexico City, especially the origins of the Mexican flag with the eagle eating the snake on the cactus on the rock.
Yeah, that's a nice little touch as well. Um, I like Panchito showing off the dances because earlier, of course, especially in Saludos Amigos, that is how Donald and Jose met. Was Jose was like, let's teach you the samba. So Donald and Jose met learning a Brazilian dance. So now Panchito is going to show Mexican dances to Donald and Jose. So I kind of like that.
Mhm.
But of course, it kind of all goes awry when Donald's like, women! And
Yeah, especially when they get to the beach and it's the three kind of ride side on and have finger guns as if they're in a fighter jet.
Yeah, another cringy moment. But when they get to after the beaches, they get to Mexico City at night, and we get Dora Luz, who is just so pretty in this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she really is. They have her floating around in this like ethereal bubble over the skies of Mexico City with all the neon lights and stuff. Really pretty. And she does the "You Belong to My Heart,"
which was a hit in Mexico, the Spanish version. For this movie, they made an English version. English version, they just threw out the Spanish version and wrote new lyrics to the music, so it is not a translation. But
yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of songs that translate from one language to not every song translates from one language to another, but the vibe is still there of "You are the one that I love and you are mine now and forever."
Donald gets a little too into it and kind of whips himself up into a bit of a love frenzy that mimics the bit of a drug high.
Yeah, and it's the whisper. It's Panchito whispering, "Pretty girls, pretty girls, pretty girls."
Yeah.
And then this breaks down into a fever dream. It feels like they did not know how to end the movie, so they just went for full-on hallucination trip. It just jumps from her singing "You Belong to My Heart" to like the Three Caballeros, but for Three Caballeros, for Three Caballeros.
We end up going into like some weird dream dance sequence where Carmen Molina, shows up and Donald dances with her, and then
It just goes off the wall because like all of a sudden there is the three, Donald, Jose, and Panchito dancing, and then they lift their bottoms, and then there are human women legs dancing.
yeah, there's also some very suggestive cacti that
Yeah.
probably would not pass standards and practices these days. Just gonna say that. Then all of a sudden, Panchito and Jose decide they're gonna give us a real finale, and they bring out a toy bull and have Donald fight it, except unbeknownst to Donald, they have loaded it with fireworks, and it sends Donald flying through the air all the way back to his home. And that is the very sudden end of.
Yeah, it's just the bowl full of fireworks explodes. There's fireworks everywhere. Donald just crash lands and he's in the arms of his two new friends, and they're still singing the song. And then you see fireworks with the Mexican word "fin" in the Mexico flag colors, the Portuguese "fim" in the Brazilian flag colors, and finally the end in the American flag colors to signify that this is the end. And then that's it. Like, it really feels like they did not know how to end this. Like, how do we end this thing? And it's like, let's just end it. We'll just have a sudden end. That's it.
uh, How do we end this, Walt? I don't know. Drug trip into an explosion? Sounds good. Okay, let's do it.
Most, if not all, of these wartime package films kind of very much end very abruptly. So,
We've reached our run time. Cut it.
Yeah, that's it. But it's a fun little movie. Again, it's only like 70 minutes, so it's not that long. When they eventually released the Three Caballeros on Blu-ray, it was a double feature. They put Saludos Amigos out in there because they're both, Saludos is less than an hour and this is 70 minutes. You can put both on one disc. But Saludos is basically a bonus feature on the Three Caballeros Blu-ray because more people have probably seen Three Caballeros than Saludos Amigos. I actually did not see Saludos until I was an adult, so I only knew this movie for a long time.
Yeah. For the longest time, I thought that this was a parody of like the Steve Martin, the
Three Amigos.
that movie, the Three Amigos. I did not realize that this had nothing to do with the. So yeah.
So let's ask the question, Kiki. Does the Three Caballeros have the magic?
I think parts of it do. It's really hard to call this a coherent movie, especially the first two segments. Once you actually get to the part where Jose shows up, it starts to feel more like a semi-coherent thing. But the penguin and the gauchito with his little burrito, I don't know why those are in there. Padding the runtime, maybe.
Maybe.
But I don't know why those were included. They don't feel at all connected, except they're part of the let me open a present part of the framing story. But once Jose shows up, you get better things. I like seeing some of the old stars. I like seeing Aurora Miranda. I like seeing Dora Luz. Jose and Panchito are great characters. They work well with Donald because I've never been much of a Donald Duck fan because you can never tell what the hell he's saying.
But
Donald Duck is a character that only works once closed captions were created.
I mean, to have characters around him that can interact with him and talk to him and loosely translate what he's saying to the audience works, which is why he always worked well with Mickey and Goofy. But to have characters that are exclusive to him in Jose and Panchito, it really makes Donald special. And the fact that all of these years later, these three characters are so synonymous with each other. Like, they're in the parades together. Like I said, they made a ride of these three going through Mexico at Epcot. They made a TV show just of these three. They did an entire episode of New DuckTales of these three. An entire episode of House of Mouse surrounding these three. So, like, the Three Caballeros have lasting impact, and it's just that is so cool to me. That this basically propaganda film has lasted so long and has transcended that original intent to just be here as Donald and his two best friends going on adventures.
Yeah.
So yes, So I would say, yeah, Three Caballeros has the magic. Even the two shorts, even though they are completely disconnected from everything else, they're cute. I find them cute. They're cute little shorts. Probably would work best separately than part of the movie, but yeah. So let's move on to next week. Daredevil is about to be born again with a brand new series continuing on from the original Netflix Daredevil series. But we've already done the Netflix Daredevil series. So what do we do to tie into this new Daredevil Born Again series? We are going back to Matt Murdock's first appearance on the big screen. Yes, folks, we are going back and talking about the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie.
Oh, no!
Yup. So come back next week for the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye!
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available every Monday at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.